Now, hip-hop isn't really dead, but the path the genre is on is leading to certain aspects of the genre dying. An important conversation right here, and if you appreciate a raw conversation like this, drop a like and don't be stingy. This has actually been on my mind for quite some time. I'm sure you might have a few things to say about it, and I want to start this conversation by taking a look at this article from Billboard. Essentially, they talk about why hip-hop has been on the decline on the charts. Although this is the article that I'm leading this video with, this conversation that I'm going to have in this video is actually way deeper than what this article is going to talk about. I'm simply going to start this convo with this article and then I'll take it from there. With that being said, let's check out this article. As the halfway point of 2023 approaches, hip-hop has yet to grace the top of either the Billboard Hot 100 or the Billboard Top 200 Albums chart. By the beginning of last June, 2022 already boasted #1 albums from 6 different rappers: Gunna, Lil Durk, Tyler the Creator, Pusha T, Future, and Kendrick Lamar. Over on the Hot 100, even amidst Harry Styles, I don't listen to that. Historic 15-week As It Was. Actually, that's a good song. Let me take that back. I like that song. As It Was Rain. Rap hits from Jack Harlow, First Class, and Future and Drake. Wait For You secured runs at #1 by last year's halfway mark. So this article, which a lot of y'all have been sending me, is essentially about how hip-hop hasn't been dominating the charts like it was in the past. So much to the point where half of the year is gone and there's yet a hip-hop album that's charted at #1 this year. Now, that was until the Pink Tape, which I got some things to say about. That's another conversation. And that's kind of surprising now that I think about it. It's not something I even noticed, mostly because I don't put too much stock in what's hot on the charts, but obviously I'll pay attention to it and I see it. And I know that's usually what the masses pay attention to the most. So this time last year, there are a bunch of #1 rap albums like the article mentioned. And in this year, we're kind of going through this dip where, that's not really happening. Now, just from some of the numbers I've been looking at and seeing, hip hop is far from in danger, if you will. Overall, it is, after all, the fastest growing genre, and it's been like that for some time now. I think hip-hop, especially in the last decade, has just seen such an influx of listeners and revenue to the point where it is being prioritized in a lot of spaces because that's what's making the money, right? That's especially true for the record labels, which we're going to talk a lot about in this video. A lot of major record labels for the last couple years have made it their life mission to allocate a lot of their funds and attention to signing hip-hop acts specifically. And that's obviously the case because that's where the money is right now. Rappers also have a pretty fast turnover rate, and how that connects to the music industry is, out of, let's say, 100 rappers a record label signs, at least 80% of those rappers, statistically speaking, are going to fail. Now, failure not meaning that they won't be able to sustain their career and find some type of success in their own way, more so failure in terms of how a record label views it, because they sign you with the hopes of getting a return on that investment, right? Plain and simple, it's just business, and there's a cap and limit on how much of their resources can actually be allotted to every single act that gets signed. Now, the budget is there, but in a lot of ways it's not there because these labels are signing so many people, and in the process they're losing a lot of money. However, they make it all back when they sign someone who makes up for all the other failed acts. So that 20% that either breaks even or succeeds is the reason why they're banking on signing so many people. And it's really a game of how many shots can we take, because at some point one of those shots is going to go in. Not only that, one of those 100 shots is probably going to make up for all the other 99 people who we gave a record deal to and signed. So that's the way the industry is set up right now, period. And it's always been like that, but now what's happened is everything is about filling quotas. It's not how can we serve this artist to become the greatest artist they can possibly become. It's how can we market this artist and make them appear as someone who's greater than what they actually are. Jay-Z said it the best. One time Hov made a great point about how greatness actually takes time to develop, and these days no one wants to put in the time to reach that greatness, i.e. nobody wants to put in the time. And that's especially true for the labels, right? Major labels don't want to take the time to develop these artists because delayed gratification. The industry needs to make money now, like today, and that's at the expense of not only the artists but also the quality of the music. How can we market this music and artists in the quickest way possible to as many people as possible while spending the least amount of money as possible while making back the most amount of money? Now that right there is a problem, because with the money being the focal point, what do you think takes a back seat? That's right, the art. The last thing the industry wants to do now is to develop talent into super talent. The industry now wants to find subpar talent with no foundation, prop it up and make it look more grand than it actually is, and market that talent to give off the perception of talent that has been developed. Because developing talent not only takes time, it takes money and it takes resources. The shortcut to that is what they're doing right now. They're discovering an artist who has the potential to appear as a star. The music might even be amazing, but the foundation might be shaky. But it don't matter as long as money can be made. It don't matter as long as we can keep this artist in a position to be seen. Because at some point, due to the nature of constantly getting exposed to something, we as human beings, we eventually find something that we like about the very thing we're getting exposed to. This is marketing 101. If you can put something in front of people time and time and time again, a percentage of those people will start to find good aspects of whatever it is that's being marketed towards them. Now, Ice Spice, who I put on a thumbnail, is a good example of this. Bless her lovely little heart. I have nothing negative to say about the young woman's character, but as an artist and as a brand, she's a great example of this exposure theory we're discussing. Cause she came in the game with this song called Munch. The song was blowing up and going viral on social media about a year ago, and I vividly remember how the first 2 weeks it was going up, everybody had something negative to say about it. A couple weeks passed and people went from clowning the song to being indifferent to the song to liking the song to loving the song to them becoming a fan of Ice Spice. How interesting. I'm not saying that she's universally loved, quite the opposite actually, but I like Ice Spice more now that I've been exposed to her presence in comparison to when she initially came out. So who's to blame for this, you might ask? Well, the labels, because they're controlling 90% of the music that's surfacing to the top. One of the bigger reasons why hip-hop is able to dominate the charts in the first place has to do with the fact that hip-hop is being prioritized over a lot of other genres by the labels, i.e. these records that eventually go #1 have a lot of money behind them, because getting your record spun on all these major radio stations actually costs money, and so the quality of the music has taken a back seat because the priority is how can we make back the money on this album we're investing all these resources into. And with that being the case, who do you think controls the kind of music that actually gets released? It ain't the artists. And in a lot of ways, and this is the scary part, the artist is now like the supporting opinion to the main opinion. And the main opinion is the label. They're really calling all the shots, and the artist is merely involved in support of that shot. So artists have literally, and we're going to touch on this in a second, but rappers and artists universally have submitted their power to these corporations in hopes of becoming this big success. What does this exactly mean? Well, let's keep on talking.
When you look at them white kids with Raiders hats on, it's the white folks getting pimped. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm making their future. I'm writing down their curriculum. Right now, what I write in my album today, when it comes out in 2 months, that's what white kids is doing. So who really is getting pimped? First off, fuck your bitch in the clique you claim.
See, the I in rap industry at one point used to be silent. There was a time when we had rappers like Pac who was in the industry but never let the industry take the one thing he had, which was his authentic voice. Despite being a part of the industry, he never conformed to the standards of it. He kept a real outside and inside of the music, and that came with a lot of pushback. Labels didn't actually want Tupac in his purest form. They wanted a Pac they could mold into whatever it is they wanted to create him into, and he knew this. Pac on several occasions spoke about what he didn't like about labels and the industry. This is something that was depicted on the movie, All Eyes on Me. Before Pac signed to Interscope Records, he had this meeting with 2 label executives who just didn't understand what he was trying to do with his music. What happened specifically was they didn't like the idea of him releasing the song, Brenda's Got a Baby.
I hear Brenda's got a baby.
Now that's a classic record, but obviously the music industry's focus is entertaining people and not emotionally moving people.
Now we do have a couple thoughts, however.
Little stuff, like maybe a couple of the tracks that just hold off on for now.
Like what?
Brenda's Got a Baby.
So you know who I am, and you know my music, and you think that I would actually scrap that song?
Well, to be blunt, Brenda's Got a Baby is depressing.
Now in the end, Pac and Interscope started seeing eye to eye, but that was only when Tupac was able to vocalize to the label executives why this record was so important to release. The only thing they see is, can this be marketed as it is? Pac, however, like the genius that he was, flipped it on him and said, I am the market. This is new, this is fresh, and this record is actually going to impact people on an emotional level. And he was right, because Brenda's Got a Baby came out on October 20, 1991, and here I am talking about it 31 years later. The only reason why Tupac was able to get his way is because he actually believed in his way so much to the point that he was willing to walk away. Rappers these days are not willing to walk away from the industry. They're walking towards the industry, already being willing to conform and sacrifice their authenticity in order to join ship, just so they can have this big infrastructure backing them up, i.e. a record label. And so what happens is the artists have given their power away to the industry because they want to make it in this. There's still that 20% who've maintained their power, but the majority gives it up. And so that has an effect on hip-hop across the board because the bulk of the rappers in the game follow suit. And how does that affect the genre? Well, the quality diminishes and the music is not as pure as it could be, because not only are we dropping a bunch now to satisfy the quotas of the industry, but the majority of what we're dropping has no soul because you gave your soul to be in this industry. You conformed, and that directly has a negative effect on the actual quality, because now we're not connecting with the rapper in his authentic form. We're connecting with a malleable version of the rapper that the industry has created. So the place the music is being dropped from is an inauthentic place. It's coming from the wrong place because so many of our artists have decided to conform to the industry standard. And since the industry standard is we want to make a bunch of money, are you on the same page? The 80% rapper says, yes, I want to make a bunch of money. What exactly do you need me to do? If you say jump, 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 I will jump, jump, jump. If you say sit, sit down, I will sit, sit down. If you say bark, 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 I will roof, roof, roof. Bark, bark, bark. And then there's that 20% who says, yes, I want to make a bunch of money, but what comes with making this money? These are the artists who have similar spirits to guys like Kendrick or J. Cole. See, these guys have made so much money, it's not even funny, and they did it righteously. They didn't conform. That's only because they knew their value before the industry saw value in them. So many rappers wait for the industry to co-sign their value before they co-sign themselves. Approaching it from that perspective, when the industry does co-sign you, since the validation is what you are always chasing, you're willing to give it all away for chump change. And that's what happens when you're chasing the validation of the industry. That's how they get you. Most rappers just don't know their intrinsic value as artists, which benefits who? The labels. A person who doesn't know their value is more likely to get taken advantage of. They're more likely to mold themselves after the expectations of the outside world, which that really goes for anything, but especially if you want to make it in the rap industry and the music industry, period. We're so quick to conform, it's literally chipping away at our beloved genre that is hip-hop. Hip-hop has been infiltrated beyond anything I've seen, man, and the saddest part is, with the way things are set up right now, there's absolutely no going back. Record labels got too much power. The average rapper is willing to give away their soul for a $20,000 advance. Shit, even $10K to be fair. And the music is not only lacking in quality, but it's also lacking in heart. It's lacking in conscious. 80% of rappers are sleepwalking through the industry. They're not even conscious. They've been sleepwalking through this shit, following the lead of the standard that's been set in place for them, not realizing they actually have the power to set the standard. But for that to happen, it goes back to what I said earlier, giving your unique power away and conforming to the industry agenda, which is make dollar signs, when really we should be putting the art first and not be so thirsty for them to let us inside the door, right? The average rapper right now is like that famished dog who's dying to eat that piece of meat because he's starving. Once they see that you're fiending for that key, like a dope fiend is fiending for that next hit of crack, they're gonna hypnotize you and make you hyper focus on a key, dangle it in front of you so you lose sight of what really matters, which is your authentic voice in its purest form. For you to keep your authentic voice, you can't look at getting inside the club as the end all be all. The quicker artists realize that you're the club the industry is trying to have access to, the quicker we're going to see a shift in the genre for the greater good. Also, stop giving your unique power away by waiting for the industry to validate you. If we can get that back, okay, if we can just get that in check, I think that will disrupt the whole genre in a good way, and in return we're going to be able to speak life into the culture in ways we couldn't even imagine. Now, just some additional thoughts on this topic right here. The thing about hip-hop now, and just music in general now, the music industry, the last thing the industry wants now is for artists to take their time with music, because the industry is a machine that has to keep on getting fed, and if that nutrition stops, the quality of the nutrition doesn't matter. If it stops, the industry is gonna stop. And so artists have conformed to that standard that was set by the industry. And why do artists conform? Well, artists conform because they see other people conforming. And the majority of the industry, I mean, just majority of people in general are sheep, right? So if an industry is changing from the inside out, what's going to happen is anyone who's inside that industry, most people, 80%, 90% of people, they're going to conform because they see other people conform. And so we have this cycle of monkey see, monkey do, and then in the end, the quality of the music ends up taking a hit, like a huge hit. I mean, think about it like this. Do you think people are actually listening to albums now? Are people actually listening to albums now? What happened when Kendrick, one of the greatest rappers of this fucking generation, dropped his last project? What happened? People's attention spans are goldfish status now. People couldn't even pay attention to the theme of the project. People couldn't even pay attention to what he was saying in that album. You don't hear a lot of music fans talking about it. A lot of hip hop fans are not talking about that project. Why? It went against the grain. I think that album by Kendrick was almost like a test to hip hop. Can y'all digest this? Let me give you guys this. I'm gonna give you guys this body of work, and I'm gonna see if you guys can digest it. Not just that. I'm gonna see if you guys are gonna be willing to try to digest it. And what happened? What Jay-Z say? Do you fools listen to music or do you just skim through it? Clearly, a lot of y'all motherfuckers are skimming through music now. I don't think people are really listening like they used to, and that's the biggest thing. The listener is also changing. It's not just that the industry is changing. It's how the listener is receiving the music. That's also changing. And so we're going through this behavioral change in the industry from inside of it and then outside of it. So the people making the music are changing their authentic ways of creating the music, like the artists, right, in hip hop and just the music industry in general, but specifically hip hop. The artist is changing. The artist is letting themselves get molded into what the industry wants them to be, and so they create a body of work that fits right in line with that. Like, honestly, I just don't think people really want to hear albums now. People don't want to listen to albums now. And then we're sitting here acting surprised why the quality of the music getting dropped is so subpar. It's subpar because we're not listening. We're not listening with our ears and our minds and our hearts. The music is kind of getting played and we're not really hearing what the artist is saying. But the biggest issue is a lot of artists are not even trying to say anything now. They're just saying a bunch of words. There's no purpose behind the words. There's no intention. There's no spirit behind the words. So of course it's going to fall on deaf ears. You're not making anything worth for me to listen to. And that's not all artists. I'm saying just as a whole in general, right? Obviously, I'm talking about the mainstream and I'm talking about the things that are coming to the surface, because we got to keep in mind, even though there's a lot of artists, there's a lot of artists that are not conforming. Most artists are going to conform. Most artists are always going to conform because that's the easy thing. And because doing it your own way actually takes a lot of heart and it takes a different kind of spirit to have the confidence to do it your way. Most people don't have that lion spirit. They just don't have it. There's so much money in the music, and so the meaning of the words have taken a back seat. Anyway, that's all I have to say for this particular topic. By the way, I recorded this video like about a month ago, and I'm happy I sat on it because, I just wanted to add that in. But I'm curious what you have to say about this. Any thoughts on it? Give me your thoughts, and yeah, catch you on the next one. I am out. Peace.